video, so if I run off, that's what I'm doing. But yeah, I just want to have a brief talk about benefits, because I've heard that there's a lot of people having their benefits cut, which is something I'm definitely in favour of, because I feel like there are people taking the piss when it comes to the benefit system. You know, the whole world is full of mad people. England is full of mad people. Anyone that has a strong belief that the Bible is the truth is obviously mentally ill, because there's some things in the Bible that are clearly not the truth, hence can't be the God's word, and it's terrible if this is God's word. So I feel like you have a mental illness if you strongly believe in the Bible, and if you, there's mentally ill people that can get extremely angry and aggressive over something. You know, I saw a video where someone was saying, I went into the bank and I tried to get £2,500 and they wouldn't let me. He was getting so angry over this. And I don't know, maybe they didn't let him because they said there's a £2,000 limit or something like that. And instead of just saying, okay, there's a £2,000 limit if I want to take cash out, instead of saying that, he started getting angry and started filming it, and we only saw the bit that he was filming. And, you know, I don't know why they rejected it, but if they rejected it because there is some sort of policy that says you can only take out so much money in cash, you know, as a kind of fraud thing, you know, what happens if you steal someone's card and then just go and take out a whole wad of money? You know, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. So maybe there's a security issue, but instead of seeing it like that, he was just seeing it as like, told you they're not letting me take out my money. He was getting so angry over it, and he was trying to prove that the bank was mentally ill, when really I was just listening to him thinking, he sounds mentally ill. So mentally ill people, you know, are everywhere, and then to think that you can claim £7,000 PIP just for something, I don't know. But my sister's, when I asked her about it, she was like, oh no, it's not going to affect me. Like, she wasn't worried at all, not panicked at all, nothing, just, oh, it's not going to affect me, you know, it's only for people with less than 4 points. And when I asked her, well, you have 4 points, or what are your 4 points for? And she was like, oh, social disorder, travel, because I don't like spending money on travel. And I'm just like, you've got a point because you don't like spending money on travel. I'm literally in a house all the time because I don't want to spend money on a bus or anything like that. I don't want to spend money at all because I don't have any money, and I don't even have anywhere to go, and I don't like the idea. I travel everywhere by a bike because I don't like spending £2 on a bus fee. You know, I remember the days when I was on the dole and I wouldn't even spend 50p to go on a bus, because we had, when you're in the dole, you get like half price bus fee, and I remember that I could walk half an hour in the rain just to avoid paying 50p for a bus. Like, that's, I don't know why I had this. I had this mental illness because I couldn't get a job. I was putting out CV and CV and CV, and I was just panicking more and more and more because no one would respond, and I just felt invisible. And then I started to feel like, well, if this is how I'm going to live my life, then I have to try and live off as little money as possible. And so I've kind of, from a very young age, I put myself in this whole mindset that I am poor and I have no money, and therefore I'm not allowed to spend any money. And then it's just horrible, because my uncle's, you know, I don't know what his benefits is. This is not me talking about his money. This is just me saying that I'm reckoning he gets about 12,000 a year. Is that right? Is it higher? Is it lower? I don't know. But he bought me a membership to Botanical Gardens a few days ago. And I felt like he did it because he needed to get rid of this money. He gets free council tax providing he doesn't have over £6,000 in his bank. And if he does have over £6,000 in his bank, then he has to pay council tax. And if he doesn't, then he doesn't have to pay it. So he's literally trying to get rid of money. And he bought me a meal today, and often he buys me meals, and I like it. You know, I don't have any money either, so it's really nice. And I don't want to say that this is wrong, because it's really nice, but it's annoying, you know, when I've spent my whole life not having any money and feeling like I can't even afford to spend 50p on a bus, to see someone who's never earned or never worked, never earned a penny in his life, literally just buying £20 meals and just buying packets of crisps for like £2, or buying a bottle of water and then washing his hands with the £2 bottle of water. I mean, it's really annoying seeing him do that when I know how much I've struggled to not spend money. And then you've got people that have never earned but he is mentally ill. He's 80. He's been on benefits his whole life. He's been given huge doses of drugs, lithium and stuff. I don't know what they were doing, because humans are not designed to live off drugs. And I feel like by making him I feel like they say, oh, he's not got the right chemical imbalance. He's got an chemical imbalance. We need to give him lots of chemicals so that we can try and control. I feel like by doing that, doctors are trying to be like gods. We are gods because we have the medication, and we can pump people up with medication, and we can control their moods, control their minds. And I feel like that's what a lot of mental health people have faced. They've faced this control from doctors wanting to bombard them, and by the government's allowing these sort of life-term plans, they're basically saying, okay, here are your guinea pigs, choose your guinea pigs who are mentally ill, do whatever you want with them, and we'll give them a lifetime care. And I understand my uncle, he could not work. If he was forced to work, he just wouldn't do it. But I think it's sad, because I feel like whatever the lifestyle that he's had of never having to work, never understanding the value of money, never having to work for anything, I feel like he's actually become almost dead in his ability to make good choices. And I feel like the drugs that he's been fed, force fed basically, have screwed with his mind, and yeah, it's horrible to see that, and therefore you can't just cut people's claim. And he, of course, okay, my sister's not worried at all. She's not worried at all. Why? Because the 7,000 from PIP, or whatever it is, I don't know what it is, 6 or 7,000 that she's getting. She doesn't need it. She's rich. She's richer than I am. She's got a huge ability to earn and work. In fact, because of her sort of type of greed, like the reason why she can't have, she got this claim because she can't look after a child. But the reason why she can't look after a child isn't just because of autism. It's because of her kind of lack of caring towards the child. If you gave someone £6,000 and said, right, you can't look after your child, so here's £6,000 to look after your child, I bet my sister would not spend much of that money on the child. She would spend it all on, well, she'd probably spend it all on saving up. I think her giving money to the bank so that she can feel like she's richer by owning more properties or something, I feel like that is more valuable for her. There's this mindset of, oh, I own all these houses, when really I actually have huge mortgages. I don't know, but the idea of her having a £300 mortgage, she seems to think that the more mortgage she has, the richer she is and the better her lifestyle is, even if it's all under a mortgage. Hence she doesn't actually own it, hence she's basically just working for the banks because all her money is just being paid off to do. She's not right in the head, but she has a mindset of, I want to earn money, I want to save money, I want to make my lifestyle worse so that I can make more money, hence feel more rich because there's more money in my bank. Like that I don't know where it is, and she's not right, but at the same time I think it's incredibly unfair that people like my sister should be allowed to claim benefits, and she's got 4 points. So I think the governments are tackling people that are claiming benefits that don't need it, and I'm good. I so support that, because there's a difference between a person that needs money and a person that doesn't need money. The son that my sister cannot look after, Marco has taken on the responsibility, and if you gave Marco £7,000 as like a help, we're not going to pest you, we're not going to help you by sending lots of people round to give you weekly tests and monitor you, and if we show up at your house and find that you're not there, we're going to tell you off. Or if we come to your house and find that you've left the son with me, with an auntie, and whilst you've gone off to the shops for 10 minutes, we're going to take the child off you because you shouldn't do that. Instead of putting all this pressure, I feel like social workers put so much pressure, instead of complimenting for the things that he does, or rewarding him for what he does, or saying, oh, we want you to take some time off work, but we know that you're going to lose out on money, so here's some PIP money, £7,000 to help you look after your son. If you did something like that, but gave it to the right people, someone who actually genuinely cares for their child, someone who would actually spend, I was seeing Marco give ice creams and give treats to the child, and I just, how much of that is, if it was up to my sister, if Marco wasn't around, would my sister go out to the shops and buy ice creams for them? I can't see that. Like, she's kind of we got to save money. Like, save money. Saving money is more important than giving your child the things that he needs. Like he doesn't need an ice cream, but it's nice to give them ice cream every now and then, or a lollipop or something. Marco has that really good ability to look after children. He's kind of like, he's not a female. He's got masculinity definitely, but I definitely feel like he was a female in a past life, and he's definitely got that female touch. So it's really sad what social services are doing by putting all this pressure. But if PIP money was to go towards people like him, you obviously care a lot about this child, and you're taking 6 months off work, and you're doing everything right to look after this child that's not even yours. If PIP money was to go to him, I know he would spend it right. But if PIP money was to go to people like my sister, using it as a way of getting a deposit on a house to take out a £300,000 mortgage on top of a £100,000 mortgage you've already got, just so that you can work and use all the interest, or all the money that you've got to pay off the interest, so that you feel like you're buying the house at the same time. And I don't know why she seems to think that she'll be able to pay off this mortgage in such a short time. I don't think she's done the calculations of tax and council tax, and there's also a £5,000 service charge on these 2 flats, and if she had 3 properties as well, the service charge is a lot higher than in most. Usually the service charge is fairly low, whereas her first service charge is fairly high. But yeah, I don't think she's thinking properly. But I understand she does have mental conditions, but a lot of people do. My mum has mental conditions. I think it could have very easily turned if my mum would have ended up in hospital, and they sort of said, "Oh, you're talking way too fast. You've obviously got mania. Here's some drugs to calm you down." And if they would have just bullied her and said, "You know what, you're obviously mentally ill," because it's obvious that she's mentally ill, and then said, "Well, we're going to give you a lifetime plan. You need all these drugs." She'd be as fucked up as my uncle right now. Like that. Drugs are not the solution to everything. And if you're a doctor and you think that you can control someone by giving them drugs, you can, but it's a temporary solution. Drugs must be a temporary solution. I think if you start getting reliant on it, then you don't learn that, if you're depressed and you just use drugs to make you not depressed, that's not actually going to change anything. Because if the reason why you're depressed is because you're thinking incorrectly and only ever thinking about the negative things, you're never going to think about the positive things, and you're never I can control my chemicals. If I think negatively, I produce negative chemicals, or whatever dopamine, I don't know what their names are, but I can control whether I feel happy or sad. Okay, sometimes I can't because bad things happen in my life, or bad memories spring up, and watching these Buffy episodes are bringing loads of bad memories, but they're also bringing good memories. I think they're bringing good. Do I have any good memories? I don't know. That hook one where you have to try and think of happy thoughts and stuff, that reminds me of happy memories, even though it's in a cave, and it's reminding me of probably sad memories in a cave. It's reminding me that I'm not living on a shitty bed any longer. I'm not living on it would have been like fur or something. My bed would have been literal fur on a floor. Yes, I'm very grateful that I have a bed now, so I can be glad of things like that, and remind things like, just some things remind me of things, and I can produce my own chemicals. And when you start relying on drugs, you can't. And if you've been doing it though for a very long time, you can't just cut someone's claim. My uncle needs this benefit because he would not survive without. He would not be able to pay his rent. He would not be able to pay his mortgage, and I feel like I was listening to him today, and his mental state actually seemed considerably worse today because of all the stressing out over it. But because he's mentally ill, this is why he's stressing out, and he doesn't know how to focus his mind. Instead of teaching people how to be smart, my mum, though, she's batty as hell. But on the day she went to the doll office, they actually gave her a job. We've got a job for you. You'll be a great nurse. And then she learned how to do things like bedpans. Birmingham is a mess. There's rubbish bins. There's rubbish and tip everywhere. Now, if you've got all those people that are on benefits and say, what, we're not going to give you a benefit. We're only going to give you a benefit if you spend 5 hours a day cleaning up the streets. If you told us something like that, the streets would be clean. They would be happy because they get their money, and they'll feel like they're actually doing something. Part of mental illness is you just sitting down, doing nothing, having millions of thoughts going through your head, worrying about things you shouldn't worry about, trying to invent things to worry about. Why? Because you seem to like worrying about things, and then, I don't know, but mental illness is where you analyze things too much, where you go into detail too much, where you start worrying about like the Illuminati or the aliens or whatever like this. And if you were to say no, stop, you're going to go be a nurse and you're going to wipe old people's bums or whatever you do, okay? If you're take your mind off the aliens and things that don't exist, and start getting mentally ill people to do things like cleaning. Okay, they probably shouldn't be mentally ill, shouldn't be. My mum though, my mum has been batty as hell all her life, and she was a nurse for a very long time. So can mentally ill people work as nurses? Well, obviously, because that's what my mum did, and she's didn't go in the same direction as my uncle. My uncle, I think, was actually smarter. At one point, my uncle was smarter. He went to university. My mum didn't even go to university. She didn't get the grades to go to university. So at one point, my uncle was smarter. And now I feel like I can't even listen to him because he mumbles too much. And most of the time, I'm just like, yeah. And when he starts looking at me strangely, I'm like, oh, sorry, did you say something? I just didn't hear that. And then he says it again, and then I realise that he's answered me a question, and I couldn't tell the difference between a question and just him rabbiting on about something. He'll never watch these videos because he doesn't know how to watch YouTube. He doesn't know how to use the internet. How you don't know how to use the internet, I don't know, but he's not taught himself anything. You know, if he would have been, instead of strapped to a bed and fed drugs, instead of that, saying, you know what, we're going to stick you somewhere, and when you just go stamp, I don't know what, there are loads of easy repetitive jobs, and if these mentally ill people at the beginning would have been taken off this you know, let the doctors play God for a bit, you know, if the doctors wouldn't have done that and rather just focused on counselling and learning to train your mind to think in the correct way, or not worry about things that don't exist, not worry about the aliens. You know, if they would have focused people's minds on something that's useful, you know, get a job, earn money, pay your bills. This is what life is about. Life is not about being a parasite and living off benefits. It's not about, okay, yeah, take opportunities, but if these opportunities are, oh yeah, I can't do this, give me £7,000 a month, you know, that's not an opportunity that you should be taking. You should be learning how to look after yourself, not by the government giving you handouts. And you know, it's easy to walk into a centre and get free food and stuff, but it's also easy to do a proper shop and buy food incredibly cheap. I spend about £10 a week on food. Like my weekly food budget is next to nothing because I'm very good at doing that, and it's because I do that I feel like I can look after myself, and it also motivates me to get some more cycling. You know, if this shop doesn't have any reduced shopping, I'll cycle to the next place, and I also get some exercise. And I think if people thought about it correctly, there would be better ways of looking at things. And there's also one other thing. This Victoria Justice girl, she reminds me of someone at uni. I've never spoken about this person before, I don't think, but I know that I didn't trust this woman. I don't know why I didn't. She just gave me like bad feelings. But there is a tiny story, which is that one time I found, or that there was a room, or I found out that apparently her father used to do things to her, and I remember the whole class feeling like oh, poor her, and you know, very, very sympathetic towards her, and at the back of my mind, I always thought that there was something wrong with her, like she was fake or something, and I had this strong belief in reincarnation, and I kind of had this sort of strong belief that it's because of her that I started thinking that people that get born to parents that might molest them, they might find that the reason why that happened was because in their past life they used to molest their kids, and this is kind of like a punishment. And I don't know for certain if this is what happened in her past life, but thinking about that girl, and that's why I don't want to post a picture of her, I guess. Just thinking about that girl kind of reminds me of why I believe sometimes karma comes back through reincarnation, when people, you know, if you molest your kids, there's a chance that in your next life that you're going to be given to a parent that's going to molest you. And just thinking about her reminds me of why I believe in karma and karma through reincarnation.